You think hiding behind that title changes what you are?
I'm asking for a warrant.
Where were you really born?
Des Moines, Iowa.
That's not what we're hearing.
You don't have authority here.
Turn around. Now.
Stop fighting.
I'm not fighting. I'm asking for the law.
You think that badge at City Hall puts you above it?
I think it means due process still applies.
Okay. Wrist.
Keep it still.
Cuff.
You move, you fall. Understand? Wrist ball. Take him down.
This isn't over, Agent.
At 6:14 a.m., 3 unmarked federal vehicles pulled into a suburban driveway in Cedar Rapids. Their target wasn't a fugitive or an undocumented suspect. It was the city's own police chief, Cade Everett. By the time local officers realized what was happening, ICE agents had already crossed a line that investigators would later call unconstitutional. If you care about real stories involving abuse of authority and accountability, subscribe now. This case only gets worse from here. Chief Cade Everett, 49, had just stepped out of his home in the Bowman Woods neighborhood. 24 years in law enforcement, 8 as a commander, 2 as chief of police. Known for tightening use of force policies and requiring federal agencies to present signed judicial warrants before accessing the county jail. He was halfway down his driveway in gym clothes, heading toward his truck, when the first SUV door swung open. Hands where we can see them, now. 3 men moved quickly, tactical vests, ICE identifiers, no marked unit. Everett froze but stayed upright. What's this about? Supervisory Agent Cole Renshaw approached first, calm face, hard eyes. Put your hands up, don't make this difficult. Everett raised his hands. I'm Chief Cade Everett. What's the warrant for? Agent Travis Holbrook stepped in close, crowding him. You'll speak when we tell you to. From the porch, Dr. Alana Everett opened the front door. Cade? Renshaw didn't look at her. Ma'am, go back inside. Everett kept his voice controlled. You don't have jurisdiction in my driveway without a signed warrant. If this is about the jail policy, we've already discussed. Holbrook cut him off. Turn around. I'm asking for the warrant. Holbrook grabbed his arm, not guiding, forcing. Turn around. Everett resisted just enough to stay balanced. This is my residence. Show me the paperwork. Renshaw's tone shifted slightly. We received credible information regarding your status. My status? Everett stared at him. What does that mean? Holbrook leaned closer. Don't play dumb. The implication hung there, clear, deliberate. Everett's voice dropped. Are you questioning my citizenship? No answer. Instead, cold steel clicked around his wrists. Across the street, a neighbor lifted a phone. A marked Cedar Rapids patrol car turned the corner slowly. Sergeant Adrian Salgado stepped out, confusion written across his face. He recognized the man in handcuffs immediately. Sirs, Salgado called out carefully, that's Chief Everett. Holbrook didn't even look at him. Stay out of this. Everett locked eyes with Salgado. They don't have a warrant. Renshaw finally turned toward the patrol sergeant. Federal matter. Salgado hesitated. Do you have documentation? Holbrook snapped back, louder now. Back up, Sergeant. And that's when Salgado noticed something that would later become central to a federal investigation. There was no warrant in Renshaw's hand, no folder, no paperwork, just handcuffs, and 3 ICE agents who had already decided they weren't leaving empty-handed. There was no warrant in Cole Renshaw's hand, no folder, no paperwork, just handcuffs. Sergeant Adrian Salgado stepped closer but kept his tone measured. Supervisory Agent Renshaw, I need to see the documentation authorizing this detention. Renshaw didn't answer him. He adjusted his grip on Chief Cade Everett's arm and nodded toward Travis Holbrook. Move him. Holbrook tightened his hold and shoved Everett forward toward the SUV, not guiding, pushing. Everett caught himself before stumbling. "This is an unlawful detention," he said evenly. "You're on record." Holbrook leaned in near his ear. "You should have thought about that before you started protecting illegals." The statement was low but close enough for Salgado to hear. "That's not what happened," Everett replied. "You were told you needed judicial warrants. That's policy." Renshaw opened the rear door of the SUV. "You don't dictate federal enforcement." Dr. Alana Everett stepped off the porch now, phone raised and recording. "Why are you arresting my husband? State the charge." Renshaw finally looked at her. "Ma'am, go back inside before you interfere with a federal operation." "What operation?" she shot back. "What's the charge?" Holbrook forced Everett down into the back seat. His shoulder hit the doorframe. Salgado's jaw tightened. "Agent Holbrook, ease up." Holbrook turned toward him slowly. "You got a problem, Sergeant?" "This is my chief." Renshaw stepped between them, lowering his voice. "Then you should understand the seriousness of what we're investigating." "Which is what?" Salgado pressed. Renshaw paused just long enough to signal control. "Questions regarding identity and eligibility." Salgado frowned. "Eligibility for what?" Holbrook answered instead. "You know exactly what." The implication wasn't subtle. Everett, still cuffed in the back seat, spoke clearly through the open door. "I was born in Des Moines, Iowa. My birth certificate is on file with the state. You're not investigating eligibility. You're retaliating." Holbrook slammed the door shut. Across the street, 2 more neighbors were recording. One of them whispered, "That's the police chief." Dr. Alana Everett shifted angles with her phone. "Agent, say your name for the record." Renshaw ignored her and walked toward the driver's side. Salgado stepped closer again. "You're creating a jurisdictional conflict." Renshaw stopped. "No, Sergeant, your chief created one when he decided federal authority doesn't apply to him." That was the first direct acknowledgement. This wasn't random. It was about the jail access policy. The detainee Everett had refused to release 48 hours ago without a signed judicial warrant, the argument in his office, the warning from ICE that he was interfering. Holbrook slid into the passenger seat. "Let's go." Salgado moved toward the rear window. "Chief, do you want me to notify?" The SUV engine roared to life. Renshaw looked directly at Salgado one last time. "Stay in your lane." The vehicle pulled away with Chief Cade Everett still in cuffs, no warrant served, no formal charge stated. Dr. Alana Everett was still recording, and within minutes that video would leave Bowman Woods and hit the internet. The SUV carrying Chief Cade Everett had barely cleared the Bowman Woods neighborhood when Dr. Alana Everett's live stream crossed 10,000 views. By the time it reached the main road, local reporters were already downloading copies. The video showed everything clearly: ICE agents refusing to identify charges, ignoring a uniformed patrol sergeant, and handcuffing a sitting police chief who repeatedly asked for a warrant that never appeared. Inside the vehicle, Everett sat upright despite the tight cuffs pressing into his wrists. "Where are you taking me?" he asked. Agent Travis Holbrook stared forward. "You'll be processed." "For what crime?" No response. Cole Renshaw adjusted the rearview mirror, watching Everett instead of the road behind them. "You obstructed a federal investigation." Everett shook his head. "Requiring a warrant isn't obstruction, it's the Constitution." Holbrook laughed under his breath. "Funny how that suddenly matters." Everett met Renshaw's eyes in the mirror. "You're making a serious mistake." Renshaw's voice hardened. "What we're doing is long overdue." The comment lingered. They pulled into a secured federal parking structure attached to a regional Homeland Security office. Everett immediately noticed something missing. No intake officers waiting, no prepared paperwork, no processing team. Just silence. Holbrook opened the rear door and jerked his head. Out. Everett stepped down carefully. "You still haven't informed me of charges." Renshaw walked beside him. "You'll cooperate or this becomes more complicated." "More complicated than arresting a police chief without a warrant?" Holbrook pushed his shoulder again. "Keep moving." Inside, Everett was placed in a small holding room. No booking photo, no fingerprint request, no formal intake questions. 10 minutes passed, then 20. Outside the building, phones were ringing non-stop. Cedar Rapids Police Headquarters had already seen the video. Lieutenant Erin Kelleher replayed it twice before grabbing her radio. "That's Chief Everett," she said flatly. "Confirm federal authorization immediately." At City Hall, Mayor Thomas Wexler's staff scrambled as local media began calling for comment. And online, the narrative was spreading fast. ICE arrests black police chief in his own driveway. Back inside the holding room, Everett finally spoke again when Renshaw entered alone. "You understand this ends careers, right?" Renshaw closed the door behind him. "You embarrassed federal agents. I enforced the law. You protected people who shouldn't even be here." There it was again, not policy, not procedure, assumption. Everett leaned forward slightly. "You targeted me because I wouldn't bend." Renshaw's expression didn't change. "You forgot who has authority." Before Everett could respond, the door abruptly opened. Agent Nolan Brecker stepped in, tablet in hand, his voice noticeably tighter. "Sir, you need to see this." Renshaw frowned. "What?" Brecker turned the screen toward him. Alana Everett's live stream had just been picked up by a national news network, view count climbing past 2 million, and beneath the video, one breaking headline was already forming. "Federal agents accused of unlawfully detaining sitting police chief." Renshaw's confidence slipped, just slightly, because for the first time that morning, someone above his pay grade was watching. Renshaw stared at the screen for several seconds before handing the tablet back to Nolan Brecker. "How far has it spread?" he asked. Brecker replied, "National outlets picked it up, cable and online. It's trending." Travis Holbrook muttered under his breath, "Over a driveway detention?" Renshaw didn't respond. He looked through the holding room window at Chief Cade Everett, who was sitting upright, calm, waiting. "Get headquarters on the line," Renshaw said. Within the hour, the tone inside the federal office changed. Phones rang constantly. Supervisors who hadn't been present that morning were suddenly asking direct questions. "Was there a signed judicial warrant?" one voice demanded over speaker. Renshaw answered carefully, "We were acting on credible intelligence. That wasn't the question." Silence. In the holding room, Everett heard the raised voices through the wall. When the door opened again, it wasn't Holbrook this time. It was Renshaw. "You're being temporarily detained pending clarification," Renshaw said, controlled but noticeably tighter. "Clarification of what?" Everett asked. "Your interference with federal enforcement operations." Holbrook stepped in behind Renshaw. "You made it personal. I made it legal." Holbrook took a step forward. "You embarrassed us in front of your staff." Everett didn't blink. "You tried to bypass constitutional procedure." Renshaw cut in sharply. "Enough." For the first time, the authority in his voice felt strained. Back in Cedar Rapids, Lieutenant Erin Kelleher stood inside police headquarters with Sergeant Adrian Salgado beside her. "I asked them twice for documentation," Salgado said. "They had nothing in hand." "Did they state a charge?" Kelleher asked. "No." "Did they present probable cause?" "No." Kelleher looked at the paused frame on her monitor, Holbrook forcing Everett into the SUV. "Forward everything to the city attorney, now," she said. By early afternoon, Mayor Thomas Wexler released a short public statement. "The city of Cedar Rapids has not been provided documentation supporting the detention of Chief Cade Everett." That line alone escalated the situation. Inside the federal office, a new call came through. Department of Homeland Security Oversight. The voice on the line was direct. "This is Inspector Rowan Blake. I need confirmation. Was there a signed judicial warrant authorizing the arrest of Chief Cade Everett?" Renshaw hesitated. Holbrook shifted his weight but stayed silent. Brecker avoided eye contact. Blake spoke again, slower this time. "Agent Renshaw, yes or no?" Renshaw answered, "No signed judicial warrant." There was a pause on the other end. "Then explain," Blake said, "why 3 federal agents detained a sitting police chief on his private property without one." Inside the holding room, Everett watched as tension visibly tightened across Renshaw's face through the glass. For the first time that day, the power dynamic was shifting, and outside the building, reporters were already gathering, because the question wasn't just about procedure anymore, it was about motive. Inspector Rowan Blake arrived in Cedar Rapids before sunset. No press announcement, no escort. Just a federal sedan pulling into the same secured lot where Chief Cade Everett was still being held without formal charges. By then, the situation had escalated beyond local controversy. National outlets were replaying the driveway footage on loop. Legal analysts were openly questioning the legality of the detention. Inside a small conference room, Blake sat across from Supervisory Agent Cole Renshaw, Agent Travis Holbrook, and Agent Nolan Brecker. Blake didn't raise his voice. "Walk me through probable cause." Renshaw folded his hands. "We received intelligence indicating obstruction of a federal immigration action." "Obstruction," Blake repeated. "Define the act." "He refused to release a detainee because he required a signed judicial warrant." Blake's eyes didn't move. "Which federal statute allows you to bypass that requirement on private property?" Holbrook leaned forward. "He's been undermining federal authority for months, blocking access, making public statements." Blake turned slightly. "That's not a statute, Agent Holbrook." Holbrook's jaw tightened. Blake continued, "Did you question his citizenship status during the detention?" Renshaw hesitated again. Brecker shifted in his seat. Holbrook answered instead, "We had reason to verify." Blake looked directly at him. "Reason based on what?" No one responded. Blake tapped the tablet in front of him and rotated it across the table. The paused frame showed Holbrook forcing Everett into the SUV. Why was physical force used on a compliant subject? Holbrook's tone sharpened. He resisted. Resisted how? He questioned authority. Blake didn't blink. Questioning authority is not physical resistance. Silence filled the room. Down the hallway, Chief Cade Everett finally stood as the holding room door opened. Renshaw entered with a noticeably different posture. "You're being released pending internal review," he said. Everett kept his voice steady. "Am I being charged with anything?" "No." "Was there ever a warrant?" Renshaw didn't answer. Everett stepped closer. "You put me in handcuffs in front of my neighborhood without legal authority." Holbrook appeared in the doorway. "Don't act like you're innocent." Everett looked directly at him. "I enforced the Constitution." Holbrook started forward, but Renshaw held an arm out slightly, stopping him. That small gesture didn't go unnoticed. The dynamic had changed. Outside the building, cameras were already positioned near the entrance. Reporters waited. As Everett stepped through the doors, flashbulbs erupted. "Chief Everett, were you charged? Did ICE present a warrant? Was this retaliation?" Everett stopped briefly before getting into a waiting city vehicle. "They had no warrant," he said clearly, "and they know it." Back inside, Inspector Rowan Blake closed his tablet. He looked at Renshaw. "Effective immediately, all 3 of you are being placed on administrative leave pending formal investigation." Holbrook stood up abruptly. "This is political." Blake's tone remained even. "No, this is procedural." And for the first time since that morning in Bowman Woods, the ICE agents were no longer in control of what happened next. Administrative leave lasted less than 2 weeks. What began as an internal review quickly turned into a full federal misconduct investigation led by DHS Inspector Rowan Blake. Every second of body cam footage, radio traffic, and internal communication from the morning of Chief Cade Everett's arrest was pulled and examined. The conclusion came faster than anyone inside ICE expected. There had been no judicial warrant, no lawful arrest authorization, no verified federal charge, and worse, internal emails recovered during the investigation showed growing frustration among agents assigned to Cedar Rapids after Everett enforced his department's warrant-only cooperation policy. One message referenced Everett directly. He thinks local politics protect him. Another read, "We'll handle it federally." Investigators determined the detention wasn't based on immigration enforcement at all. It was retaliation following Everett's refusal to release a detainee without constitutional documentation 48 hours earlier. Inspector Blake's final report used careful language, but the findings were clear. Abuse of federal authority, unlawful detention, conduct inconsistent with civil rights protections. Supervisory Agent Cole Renshaw was terminated from federal service. Agent Travis Holbrook was dismissed following findings of excessive force and discriminatory conduct during the detention. Agent Nolan Brecker resigned before disciplinary proceedings concluded. The Department of Homeland Security later issued a public statement acknowledging serious procedural failures during the operation, but by then the damage had already spread nationwide. Chief Cade Everett returned to work 3 days after his release. The first time he pulled back into his Bowman Woods driveway, neighbors who had watched him taken away in handcuffs stood outside waiting. Some applauded, others simply nodded. The driveway looked the same, but the story attached to it didn't. Months later, the city of Cedar Rapids reached a federal civil settlement with Everett following legal action filed by civil rights attorney Simone Halperin. New departmental policies were adopted requiring written federal verification before any joint operation involving local officers. What happened that morning changed more than careers. It changed oversight. It changed cooperation rules, and it exposed how quickly authority can cross the line when accountability disappears. Because on that morning, federal agents arrived believing no one would question them. They were wrong. Chief Cade Everett wasn't arrested for breaking the law. He was arrested for insisting it be followed. And the cameras never stopped recording. If stories like this matter to you, cases involving abuse of power, accountability, and justice, make sure you subscribe to the channel right now. Because this wasn't an isolated incident, and the next story might be even more shocking. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and stay with us as we continue uncovering stories authorities hoped would never be seen.